with a low-code agent, we'll be able to build something using Autopilot. What you see here is a screen of what you get when you actually want to build an agent for the first time. And I already put the prompt in here, but the prompt is very simple. It simply says create an agent that is able to review risk calculations and extracted fields in order to make a loan eligibility determination or recommendation. Use any tools and context gradient as possible. I'm going to hit generate this agent. And what you'll see here is it says Autopilot. Autopilot was a capability we launched last year in order to help developers, testers, and everyone engage in our automations in a more conversational way. This is the capability that allows Autopilot to help a developer actually build an agent. As you're looking for Autopilot to run, you see it's starting to come out and make suggestions. The first thing it's suggesting for me is, hey, we need to put some arguments, something the agent can use and something the agent can output. As I review these suggestions, you see that Autopilot is automatically putting the fields where they need to be and allows me to accept it. Let's take a look at the system prompt. I can accept the system prompt and the user prompt. Now, you might be wondering what these prompts are. These prompts are instructions for the agent to do. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an automation developer. I'm not a prompt engineer out there for all these new capabilities for LLMs. So having Autopilot automatically help me suggest the prompt, make sure that the prompt is actually built in a much better way than I could do by myself. The next thing I want to show you is tools. Here, it's suggesting that I use this tool. What Autopilot is able to do is look through the whole gambit of tools within my UiPath environment to know what sort of automations already exist there. And Autopilot is automatically able to go into this agent if it sees fit. As you see here, it's saying that, hey, we already have an automation built for the risk calculation. Let's go ahead and bring that in here. The next thing is context. When I see the suggestions, it says loan policies. Context is very important for your agents. And what context means is that is your context. That is your special information that your agent needs to use. So for instance, it discovered that we already have our loan policies established in our system. It's going to pull that automatically in so that the agent can use it. And then finally, at the bottom of this section, escalations. As Daniel mentioned earlier, we really want reliable agents. When an agent doesn't really know what to do, we don't want it to just go and guess. We want it to actually escalate to a human.
Basically, it's all the most recent models that you can imagine. DeepSeek, the Qwen 3 models just came out, I believe, yesterday. We can support all of them in our infrastructure, and we'll be just adding them as they come out. And this toggle down there, which is currently in preview, is support for planning, so-called plan and execute agents, where agents actually plan their trajectory in advance so that they can do way more complicated things. So that was the first of the one more things. But next, I think, let's get into something else, which is for the more advanced developers out there who build automations today, you might be wondering, hey, wait a second, what if these agents actually change systems of record? What if they like delete something or make a major modification? For example, this agent on screen is a loan approval agent. So it's actually using a robot to process approval for a loan. Clearly, when you're evaluating this agent or when you're testing it, you don't want to actually approve a loan, right? So what we're doing, we go next here, is we are shipping the ability to run these agents under simulation. This is super cool. We actually use a different agent, which is the supervisor agent, which is simulating the environment this agent is running in. So this particular agent thinks it's running for real, and it thinks it's actually making real tool calls, when in reality it's not. And the supervisor agent is essentially faking the responses.
I think this is really cool. So when I showed you the evaluation sets earlier, every single one of those evaluations actually are running robots behind the scenes to do the evaluation. That's a lot of compute power. You don't actually want every single robot to run every single test. You really only want to test the agent. You're telling me with this capability, even the robots don't have to run, we can simulate that, so we only test the agent? That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. The robots, the places where humans interact with these agents, it can all be simulated. And you can even simulate failure conditions. So let's get into that, right? Because what you just saw was a single simulated run. Now what we're going to get into is, what if you actually want to simulate a lot of different cases, including failure cases? So here I'm going to go to eval sets, and I'm going to generate a new simulation set. And what this does is this also uses another agent to generate a lot of those test cases, including some adversarial examples. So here, let's think about this, right? For this loan approval agent, we want to test some failure cases related to bad credit history and see how it works. So let's just click Generate Evals. And it's looking at the description of this agent. It's looking at what it does, and it's going to think of some good examples to test this agent under simulation once again. Exactly, right? So
I think this is really
good examples, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like earlier when I showed you guys the evaluations, I had to input every single one of them into the system. That's why I only had 4 of them. It was taking me a lot of time. You were telling me I could have just used this to simulate all of them, to create all of them for me?
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that would have saved me a lot of time.
Yeah, it will save you a lot of time. And also, if you want to fault inject and you want to test how the agent works, if one of the tools it calls fails or behaves anomalously, you can actually do that. And once this simulated evaluation set is actually created, you can run the agent under simulation for all of them. And as you can see, it's scoring pretty well. In places where it's not scoring well, you can actually dig through it and see what the simulation actually did that caused it to fail. In this case, I believe it's correctly denying this loan because this person has some adverse markers in their credit history, let's just say.
Very cool.
Okay.
Well, we talked a lot about agent capabilities, but I want to show you what's the rest of Maestro. So earlier, you saw me pull up the screen. This is how we actually designed the Maestro flow. But we can also implement this flow into a runnable flow. Let me show you what that looks like. For the, pretend I'm a process manager, and I'm managing the loan process. I'm no longer the individual loan approver, but someone that has to manage a whole bunch of loan approvers. And I can go into Maestro and see this process being run through. I can see how many total instances are being run through, how many are running right now, how many failed, how many completed, how many canceled. I can see every single instance of this process, each distinct instance, and click into each of them. Let me click into one of them right now. In this instance of this flow, the state of the flow instance is paused. We are able to pause instances now using Maestro. I'll talk about it in a second. What is important here is I paused it right after this LangChain agent step. This LangChain agent was developed to go get a series of eligibility checks against state requirements. As I mentioned earlier, that's very flexible. I can't really code that in a low-code way. That's why we need a professional developer like Taki to build a LangChain agent in order for us to use it here. But what I want to show you is in the execution logs, we actually see the execution of every single step, as Daniel was mentioning earlier, of this process being run, including the LangChain logs. These are real LangChain logs. This is not a fake demo. This is a real LangChain agent that ran. As we also, in this pause state, I can go modify things if I need to. So for instance, these variables in response out from LangChain, and if I needed to modify for whatever reason to continue the process, I can go here, change the variable, and let it resume without ever having to restart the process. Let's go ahead and try to resume this process, and we'll talk a little bit about pausing. What UiPath has done with Maestro is every single instance of this workflow is its own independent execution of the workflow. We're no longer using like queues and all that kind of stuff in order to try to simulate this. This is real instance management. And as you see, as we were watching the workflow run, you get to see the arrow where, oh wow, that was really cool. So you see what happened there, guys? Huh? So we are able to parallel actions in Maestro and kick off all 3 of these actions at the same time. And that really brings a lot of flexibility in building these automations because you don't have to wait for everything to work sequentially. I'm going to let this agent run for a little while because it's going to the next agent we have here to verify customer and property and talk about a few other things that we have in Maestro. But if I wanted to, I could pause this workflow right now and resume it whatever I wanted to. The next thing I want to show you is what happens when something fails. If a step fails in here. With traditional automation, if a step failed, I would have to start over from the very beginning. That was a big pain for me as a developer. But when using Maestro, I can not only see why it failed here in the incident, but I can edit things if necessary. The cool things I want to show you about this, though, is what can I do from here? Well, the first thing I can do is retry. And when I click retry, it will allow me to retry this instance this step exactly where it is. I don't have to start the new flow all over again, right? But there's more cool things. Let's talk about migrate for a second. One of the most common things that you might need to do when a flow is broken is update it. I can update this flow, or I can, well, actually, one of the more common things I do is I push an update that actually breaks, so I need to roll back. Now that this flow is running, I can select a version of this workflow to migrate to and change the actual workflow behind the scenes while the instance is running without restarting the instance. How cool is that, huh?
It's amazing.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the next capability here, move. This one's my favorite. So when the workflow is frozen here, and I just needed to move it along, I'm able to click move, and I'm able to select anywhere in this workflow and have the process resume. This is useful for me if I need to skip to a future part of the process. Maybe this step doesn't really matter and is stuck there for no reason. Let me continue. This is also useful for me if I need to return to an earlier state in the workflow, in the instance, in order to just rerun parts of it without rerunning the whole thing. That's my favorite feature, huh? These features are really cool, aren't they? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let me show you one more thing about how we can do instance management in Maestro. This instance is stuck right here at the human eligibility decision. And the human eligibility decision is that view screen that I showed you earlier. What happens if the person that's sitting there is out of office and is on vacation? What do I do now? Do I have to wait for them to come back? As this instance is sitting there, I'm able to see, I was able to click on it, see this is an action center task. I can click open task, get straight to here, and reassign or unassign this to someone else. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not all. This is just from the instance management perspective of this workflow. Imagine the insights I get as a process manager. Going back to this screen where I saw every single instance being run on this workflow, let's take a look at what happens when I go into the monitoring tab. On the monitoring tab, not only do I see the workflow, but I can also see the completed instances, how many instances there were. I can see the top 10 faulted elements. This is where the actual workflow broke. I can see where the instances are longest duration. I can figure out who's been sitting or on vacation or slacking off. I can see the top 10 elements by longest average duration. What does that mean for me? That means more opportunity to automate. If something is sitting at a spot for a long, long time, great opportunity to automate. I have all of these insights. But if I also just want to visually understand where my bottlenecks are, I can turn on heat map and see exactly where in this process my bottlenecks are. How cool is that, guys?
That's amazing, yeah. And actually, if you think even further about this, I think Farron was alluding to this earlier, that not all processes can be handled with these low-code agents. Some will require professionally coded agents from a data science team, an engineering team, et cetera. So I'm actually really thrilled today to announce that we are launching support for coded agents inside UiPath. This is something that a lot of our customers have been asking for. And today we're actually announcing a partnership with LangChain, who are one of the leading open source agent frameworks, right? Have you heard of LangChain? So together with them, we're doing a few things. We're making it much easier to build, monitor, and deploy these agents written in Python and TypeScript. We're delivering native integration with LangSmith, which is their observability platform. We're also doing a collaboration on the agent protocol for cross-platform agent interoperability. And then we're also shipping the ability to run these LangGraph agents natively inside the UiPath. What do you think about that, Danny?
Well, I'm a developer myself. I'm very excited to offer, our professional developers the ability to go even a further distance than with low code. And we are doing actually for our entire platform. One of our core initiatives is to support more and more pro devs in our platform. And in particularly, this collaboration with LangChain is great. I have all the admiration for them. I am following them on Twitter for the last 2 years. I think we learn a lot. And this is also a testament of our platform, our capability to securely take a Python agent and run it in the context of our governance and security, connecting it with our robots. It's a testament for our overall architecture.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is maybe now a great time to take a deeper look at one of these coded agents. So here on screen, you can see that this is an agent that's written in Python. So we're using Cursor actually to develop it. And all we had to do is add a reference to the UiPath LangChain package that's available now on PyPy. And then once you do that, you can just define your LangGraph agent in Python, just like you normally would. You have access to all the capabilities of LangGraph, and that's it. From here, you can simply use the UiPath CLI to just publish this agent to the UiPath infrastructure. And once it's published in our infrastructure, it operates just like any other one of our agents. It's governed the same way. It has the same audit trails, logging, the same role-based access control, et cetera. So let's keep going. And next, I think the thing I want to talk about is computer use agents. So for people who've been monitoring the industry, you've noticed that there's a lot of talk about computer use. These are almost like self-driving for your computer. It's like AI that uses the mouse and keyboard. And here we have a very simple demo of a UI agent that's autonomously setting up a meeting. And we will have these very soon in UiPath as well. So already our developers can use them.
Wait a minute. So that previous studio screen, as a developer, I used to have to go drag and drop every single activity in there that says click here, type here, click here. What I saw you do is just put in schedule a meeting for me at 9:30. And all of this stuff is done by an agent, even the UI automations with reliability.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the agent can actually look at the screen and it knows where to click. In this case, it knows where to select various drop downs to set the time because it's reading the screen. And it can set the title, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it super, super easy to write these UI automations.
Yeah, and what's important, we are combining our UI automation for navigation between screens, which is very reliable. And we can run this prompt-based automation for the portions where it's very difficult to express in rules. When the screens change a lot, where there are a lot of rules, you can run this. And we can run this unattended. And so I think we are the first company that launched, a computer usage in an unattended mode in a combination with UI automation.